UK, a 90-day truce in their trade war. That's what we've been hearing. After weekend talks in Geneva, the US and China agreed to temporarily lower those tariffs against each other. Tell us more.
A breakthrough and a surprise outcome of that meeting. Donald Trump has hailed what he called a total reset with China, even though trade barriers still remain a lot higher than before he took office. By Wednesday, the US will lower its overall tariffs on Chinese goods by 115% from 145%, keeping in place the baseline 10% tariff and the previously announced 20% duties in connection with fentanyl trade. China will lower its retaliatory tariffs to 10%. Beijing has also suspended or cancelled non-tariff countermeasures such as export curbs on rare earth minerals. It marks a significant de-escalation in the ongoing trade war and a surprise outcome from the first round of talks. However, underlying issues still need to be resolved, and the deal doesn't cover separate 25% tariffs on cars, steel and aluminium, or on possible future duties on pharmaceuticals. Earlier in our programme, Maurizio Zanardi, Professor of Economics at the University of Sussex, gave us his take on the deal.
We need to go a little beyond the headlines because a massive decrease in the order of 3 digits of percentage points on both sides. But we should remember that we still are in a situation where the US is charging 30% and China is charging 10%. And the agreement that we have read and reread today is not legally binding. And even if it were, it could snap out at any moment because the further negotiations may dissolve because there is disagreement, or because also of the erratic behavior of President Trump. So I think that on the one hand, we should be optimistic. No one expected such a major agreement in quite such a short period of time. But the devil, as I always say, is in the details. What's going to happen in 90 days? What are the negotiations going to achieve? And let us not forget that the United States is charging 30% on all Chinese goods and more for some sectors, and China 10%.
Well, global markets rallied on the announcement, despite continued uncertainty over whether the 90-day pause will lead to a permanent solution. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average surged more than 1,100 points, and the S&P 500 hit its highest since early March on hopes of easing of tensions. The tech-heavy Nasdaq rose more than 4%, Sharon.
Meanwhile, you have the US president taking aim at the pharmaceutical industry, signing an executive order directing drug companies to lower their prices.
And lower the prices. The wide-ranging order gives pharmaceutical companies price targets in the next 30 days to get them to bring prices of their medicines that align with what other advanced countries pay. It's not the first time Donald Trump tried to do so, but his previous attempt during his first term didn't succeed. Siobhan Silk has the details.
Not doctor's orders, but an executive order aimed at the pharmaceutical industry, which the US president says has been gouging Americans for decades. On average, US prescription drug prices are 3 times higher than in other developed nations. Donald Trump has told drug makers they have 30 days to take action to bring down their prices.
Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries.
That would cover drugs purchased by the federal health insurance program Medicare, which covers tens of millions of elderly and disabled Americans. But it's not clear how the White House would implement it. When Trump tried to introduce a similar pricing policy during his first term, to the protest of the pharmaceutical industry, it was blocked by the courts. Amid his trade war, Trump took a swipe at EU members that enjoy lower drug prices.
We're subsidizing others' health care. It was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing. But
pharmaceutical firms, consistently among the most profitable companies in the world, argue drug sales fund research and say lower prices would stifle innovation. Some industry leaders have echoed Trump's claim that other countries are not paying their fair share. They say the way to level the playing field is not by cutting prices in the US, but raising them in Europe.
Finally, Yuka, Japan's struggling car giant Nissan, it's slashing even more jobs.
Well, Nissan has already announced plant closures, a reduction in production capacity and massive layoffs as it faced stiff competition from China, lagged in the global EV race and faced a failed merger deal with Honda. According to Japanese media, the car maker is set to cut 10,000 more jobs globally, bringing the total cuts announced since last year to around 20,000, or 15% of its global workforce. The car maker is due to announce its full-year earnings on Tuesday, but already warned last month that it would likely book a record net loss of around €5 billion. And that's it from the business desk.
Yuka, thanks for all of that. Yuka Roya there with this evening's business news.